We're on the bottom of page Nun Zayin. We're in the middle of learning this idea that a person, in order to be a Noived Hashem, needs to have some form of yira, one idea was that yira and avoda are two separate things, and the Alter Rebbe says that be'emes, when you have at least yira b'moichoi b'machshavta in your thought, you have some feeling, some understanding, some acceptance intellectually of which leads to a fear and awe for God. Yes, Moshe.
Don't forgive me. I think yesterday, we finished off. Still, we're on page 112.
No, completely. You must have fell asleep. What's with you? We're on the bottom of Nun Zayin, 100%.
The bottom of Nun Zayin.
Nun Zayin is the opposite page to 112.
Okay. Never mind.
You missed the day. You missed the day.
I came in late yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
So
we're actually like the last line on page Nun Zayin. Anyway, to continue the thought, so a person must have the basic Yiras Hashem to be an Oved Hashem. And so the second approach that the Alter Rebbe says towards the bottom of Nun Zayin is that since B'Shov Regazu, I want you to see since at this very moment he has fear for God, at least as much fear as he fears a human being, and the Alter Rebbe speaks about that and brings the Chazal, therefore that's credited to him as an adequate amount of fear. And the Alter Rebbe says this is called Yira Tato, V'Yiras Chet. We hear when we learn, do you have Yiras Chet? Sometimes it's called Yiras Elikim, but Yiras Chet, are you afraid of the sin? The Alter Rebbe says that this idea is the basic rudimentary amount of Yira that is required of a Jew to be a Noived Hashem. Then, so once he mentions this, he explains that there are two levels of Yira. One's called Yira Ilah, and one's called Yira Tato. And Yira Ilah, he says, is Yirei Boishes, the feeling of embarrassment. And I told you yesterday, this is not guilt, but rather, you could be much better. And when you're not better, you're inside, you feel embarrassed. It's like, come on, I know the way I should be. We discussed that yesterday. So now, the last four words on Nun Zayin, and we're going to go on to page 114. The Is Yira, V'Is Yira. There is this type of Yira, and there is this type of Yira, referring to the two levels of Yira. Chulu. Avol, next page 114. Beli Yira Klal, without any sort of Yira, of fear, Loi Porcho Le'ela Ba'ava Levada. Your soul does not soar on high with just the notion of love. And the Alter Rebbe brings the mashal that he brought in 39 and 40, chapters 39 and 40, just like a bird. A bird cannot fly with one wing. It's like driving with one engine or with one brake. It's dangerous, and in this case, you can't fly. The tchilu rechimu, awe, fear, and love, hein trei gatfim, they are the two wings, which goes to B'Tikkun, as it says in the Tikkun Izoya. So therefore, someone will say, look, this idea of fearing God and all that, that's not my cup of tea. But love, Ava, that is my cup of tea. So the Alter Rebbe says, sorry chap, with one wing, you don't fly up. Your soul doesn't enter. It can't fly. It can't soar. What do you mean can't fly? The Torah and mitzvahs that we learn and do down here below needs to soar on high to the right place, to your source in heaven, which triggers the heavenly response to give you blessing. Now, if your avodah can't fly, can't soar on high, you're not getting in. So you're on your own, and nothing. If God wants to have mercy on you, He'll have mercy. But the ordinary procedure is for a person to have their Torah mitzvah soar and high. Let's continue after the brackets. Says the Alter Rebbe, guess what? Not only if you only have love, you won't soar on high, but even if you only have yira, you have only fear. Sorry, it's only one wing. And therefore it can't soar on high. And the Alter Rebbe here is like changing his tune in a way. He says, although it's called avodas hevet, you get the credit for being a servant, but you also need to have the love for it to soar. So we have two different things here. It's very interesting. To be called a servant, an Eved of Hashem, Yira is adequate. But for your Torah and mitzvahs to soar on high and to get to the right place, for that you need to have two wings. You also have to be a child, a son, a daughter. You have to be Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu. You have to be a son, which is the idea of love, the love between the natural love between a parent and a child. To arouse the natural instinctual love that you have in your heart. That should be revealed. That should be at least revealed in your mind. Liskar. So he employs the same language. Liskar, to remember. Remember in the beginning of chapter 41, it says, you have to constantly remember. Here too, he mentions the word liskar. Liskar, to remember avosil Hashem. You should remind yourself of your love for Hashem. Achar, Hashem echad, b'machshavta, in your thought, uv'ritzoyna, and in your will, l'dovka b'yizborach, to cleave to Hashem, So here finishes this thought, and that is, Isser, that just like Yira without Ava is not adequate and the bird can't fly, so too a Yira without Ava. Yes, sir. What?
We say in kavodim, in kavadim, in kavadim, in kavadim, right? And so the way that I was taught was that, the master asked the servant to bring me something to drink, and he brings him something to drink. He asks his son to bring him something to drink, and he goes down to the wine cellar to find the father's most favorite wine, and then he brings it up. What's the difference between the two? Is one is acting as an eved. He's just doing what he was told to do, and the son, out of love of his father, knows what he really wants. And then he goes the extra step.
Right. And again, that's true. But what Dr. Rebbe is saying, that if that's the only way your Torah mitzvahs will not soar on high. You need to have yira too. There needs to be yira. In other words, this is the idea that Avinu Malkeinu. It's not just Avinu. I don't want to go into it, but the Rebbe Rashab has a very important continuum of discourses of the year 1906, where he goes into this concept at great elaboration, like pages upon pages. A son who's a servant who's a son, a loyal servant, a simple servant. Maybe one day we should learn it. It's a very interesting and important treatise that the Rashab composed in 1906. And he tackles these ideas. But in Tanya, the origin is here in Tanya, but elaborately it's there. Let's continue. We're now about 7 lines from the top. Beginning of the line. So this should be the person's intent when he studies Torah. When he does mitzvahs, to attach his soul, his godly soul, and his vivifying soul, and its garments, as we mentioned earlier throughout Tanya, that each soul, i.e. the Nefesh Elikis and the Nefesh Abamis, has a set of faculties, all should be directed with the Kavanah to soar on high, both through Yira and Ava. Okay. This is all personal. Now the Alter Rebbe says, guess what? We have a responsibility as personal servants of God to also elevate the world. And this is maybe also a source for the Chabad motto of not just doing things insular for yourself, but for everyone else. And think about everyone else. Look at this piece of Tanya. Remember, everything has to be backtracked to the book, to the original philosophy book, Shita book of Chabad Hasidus. So if Chabad over the last 100 years or 80 years has been reaching out, where in Tanya kind of is a source for that? Maybe it's right here. However, a person should never exclude himself from the community. Okay? You're part of a community. You live in a community. You should live in a community, and you should be part of the tzibur. Therefore, the individual should have in mind to unite and cleave to God, the source of his soul, and the source of all souls. And just for a moment, we here on, let's say, 5-6 chaver, right? We're individuals. But if you look at our source, in our mucker, we're one. When you're born, you come into the world, you come as an individual. But when you come in your mucker, there is a part of the source that's your source, individual, custom tailored to you. But then there is the mucker of all muckers, the Jewish people. That's what I told you in the beginning of the shir. That even the person who is lefty and all that is triggered by the war. Because in source and mucker, we're all one people. So the Alter Rebbe now says an amazing thing. That when he said before, you have to have kavanah of Ava and Yira when you do a mitzvah. It says the Alter Rebbe, not just that, but that kavanah is also helpful and necessary to unite all of Yisrael. So what you're doing is you're uniting everyone. So that's why I say maybe this is a source for the whole idea of outreach. It's not enough to say, I'm just thinking about myself in my little corner, my little shul. No. A Yid has a responsibility to bind themselves to all Jews wherever possible, in every situation. And yes, it is your concern, living in Bet Shemesh, and me in Borough Park, and everyone, wherever they are, to think about the Jew in Timbuktu. And we saw this by the Rebbe, of course. If he wasn't able to go himself, or he didn't go himself, he sent the shluchim, he sent people, he sent businessmen. The stories are, right? My father-in-law was on a business trip. He stopped off in Greece. He gave them Hanukkah candles. He you know what I'm saying? That idea, the idea is that you're not just a private citizen. This is a yesod in the Chabad ethos, based on this chapter of chapter 41, of this section, that since we are all one Jewish people, Mokar Neshamas Yisrael, we have an obligation to all others. And we need to know that when we have Kavanah B'Tfilah, guess what? We're helping the soldiers on the field. And it's not just a fantasy, it's a reality, because we are Mokar, we are all one in Shadish, and so that's why those that are sitting and learning in Kailul, Yeshiva, right? Is it their job now to go and by them learning, if that's their obligation now, they are just helping the soldiers. It's like they're on the front too, through their way. So it's a two-way street. The soldiers help them and they help the soldiers. Problem is when it becomes, you're using that as an excuse. That's where we have the disagreement of, should yeshiva bachrim be enlisted or not. And I don't want to talk about that. I'm not knowledgeable in that. I'm not an opinion maker. But I'm just saying the idea spiritually is a very important idea. Let's continue. We're on page 114, it's smack in the middle of the page. This idea that the spirit, Ruach Piv, the spirit of the mouth, is called B'Shem Shechina. We have a word, the divine presence. Lshem. Why is it called Shechina? Because it rests and it dwells and invests itself within all of the worlds. To vivify them and to sustain them. The he. Remember, I always emphasize the he. Here again, we have another he. The he. And this Shechina, it. Hamashpas boy koyach hadibur hazeh, that brings the hashpah, the influence of God's koyach, power of speech, that comes from divrei Torah, your words of Torah, the person's, or koyach hamayis, the person's action, hazeh lases mitzvah zu. The yichud zeh, and this unity caused through our learning and our mitzvahs. Who are you there? I'm shocha say the self baruch lamata. It's drawing down God through below. Mitzvah through learning and mitzvah. Shu mulubish behen. Hashem is invested in the Torah mitzvahs. V'yiskaven laham shechaydi is baruch hamokin nafshay. And look what he says. V'nefashis kol Yisrael. So we, the Jew, the Ovid, should have a mind to draw down godliness, God, Hashem, on the source of your own soul, Makar Nafshoi, and then he adds the words, V'nefashis kol Yisrael. So, Isra, when we say Lshem yichud kutshu brichu shchinte, it's not just the Lshem yichud for me doing the mitzvah now. That's the chiddush. Now, the Rebbe is saying the Lshem yichud means that you, through your mitzvah now, should draw down the Shechina on all of Yisrael. Lshem yichud kutshu brichu shchinte is for everyone through your act. So therefore, and Alter Rebbe says, he was referring to, I think, to chapter 42, that over there will explain the meaning of this yichud by Richus Einshon. And this is the meaning when we say for the name of unity. Kutsha brichu of God, Shchinte in His divine presence. B'shem kol Yisrael. What do you mean b'shem kol Yisrael? It could have said, Moshe, L'shem yichud kutsha brichu shchinte. I'm doing the mitzvah to unite Hashem with the Shechina vis-a-vis my mitzvah, Avraham, my learning. It doesn't just say that. It says the three words at the end there, B'shem kol Yisrael, in the name of all of Israel. Says the Alter Rebbe that's the reason why it says B'shem kol Yisrael, because when you do a mitzvah and when you learn Torah, L'shem yichud, you're uniting Hashem not only for yourself personally, but for all of Israel, all Jews. Skipping the Haggadah. And although for this is true, the person's heart truly wants to bring this yichud, but you must have a pure intent, not a selfish motive. In other words, Moshe, like this. You know why I'm doing this mitzvah? Because I want the soldiers to be safe. It's very, very nice, but it's not pure. It's selfish. Pure means for the sake of the mitzvah. Hashem will take your mitzvah and He will do what He needs to do with the mitzvah. So we throw around this idea, give tzedakah for the soldiers, do that. Listen, it's better than not giving tzedakah. But here we're really taking it apart. We're saying L'shem yichud should not be for any motive, just for one motive. God, to create unity with God. God should be in the world. That's it. If we create this unity that the Eibishter is in the world, of course the Eibishter will help the soldiers, and of course He'll help us. If you bring a light into your home, it illuminates the home. Do you have to tell the light, hey light, when you come into my home, I want you to light up this room and that room, that room. Don't tell the light anything. It'll do its job. It knows what it needs to do. If you start telling the light what to do, you're detracting from the yichud. You're interfering in the yichud. And it causes a blockage. And that's what happens at times. We wonder, why didn't the bracha take effect? Whether it's a bracha from a rebbe, a bracha from a godel, bracha from the Torah, whatever, a kohen, why? The answer is, it could be that you caused a blockage because of your selfishness. I'm not selfish. Selfishness has many layers. And if you interfere with the yichud on any level, telling the yichud in a sense, go here and don't go here, that's a blockage. Now, all of this is alluded to. It's very, very bekitzer here, where the Alter Rebbe says, look, Hutzarach li is believing Ava Rabba Lshem levadoi. You need to create an abundant love to God alone. It's without any cheshbonis, without any calculations. Las is nachazuch front of levad, that you want to do one thing. God, I want to make a pleasantry for you. Nachasruch, Hashem says, I want to have pleasantry, so I'm making it through the mitzvah, through the yichud. V'leila rav is nafshay, continuing on Nuches, and you shouldn't have the thought, I want to quench my thirsty soul, hatzmeil Hashem, that's thirsty. Ella, rather, what should you have? Kibrod ishtadl basar oviv imoy, like a son who, as Isser said earlier, who is mishtadl, who attempts to do what his father wants. He goes after his father, Avei v'imei, from the Zohar. Derochim loin yatir migarmei v'nafshei. He loves him more than his own self and his own soul. Which goes from Leil b'sheir aymehem, as we said earlier in Tanya, chapter 10, I believe. Kol mokim, nevertheless, yesh l'chol adam lo yahargil atzmei b'kavod hazu. The Alter Rebbe understands the psychology of a human, and he says, this is a very lofty thought, and we're not really there. The Alter Rebbe says, I know. At least, nevertheless, even if you're not there yet, yesh l'chol adam lahargil atzmai. Train yourself. Practice the kavana zu. Practice makes perfect. Yes, Moshe.
We're seeing right now, and we see this all the time, but we're seeing especially right, front, left, and center, people wanting to do mitzvahs for the sake of protection of Am Yisrael, soldiers, etc. So you're saying that really, it should really be phrased a little differently. We're doing the mitzvah for the sake of the mitzvah.
Yes.
The byproduct of that, hopefully, one of the byproducts of that will be the shmirah generated.
Yes.
But
yes.
Doing the mitzvah,
yes.
obviously, for the sake of the mitzvah.
Yes. But, very good. You said it very well. But the fact is that many people don't think this way. And even it's not, Moshe, I just want to, it's not just to say it this way, the way you expressed it is to say it's not just about what you say, it's about what you feel inside. And the Alter Rebbe understands that this is a big task. It's not easy. It's not easy, and so the Alter Rebbe says, that's why he says here, accustom yourself, train yourself, and that would incorporate even in speech the way you said it, and then the way you think about it. Train yourself that the mitzvah is genuine on its own. It doesn't need any helpers and directors. Train yourself. Look what he says. Mikol Makim, Avram, are you with us? Avram, are you with following? Okay, good. If not, please speak up.
Yes, I am.
Good. If you're not, please speak up. So I want you to follow. Every person should train themselves with this purpose and intent. Moshe says, even though, Belibai, in your heart of hearts, it's not 100% truth of all truth. Let's face it. We do a mitzvah, we have a little pniyah, okay? I want my kids to do well. I want my kids to be protected. I want to find shidduchim. I want to be blessed. Right? And Alter Rebbe understands that. Alter Rebbe understands the shortcomings of the average person, and therefore he says, nevertheless, that you're not at a point where you should want to do this just with your entire heart, just for the sake of doing it. You see this Lshem? A little bit, ma'at, a bissel, ma'at mezeyer, a little bit, chofetz libay bezeh, be'emes. Alter Rebbe says, you should know that your heart, a little bit, it really means it. And it's so true. It's so true in human nature and human psychology. It's, when you learn Chassidus, when you learn Torah B'chlal, you learn Chassidus, I've told you over and over, Chassidus didn't come to deal with Musar type of things. Behave well, be clean. It didn't come to also be smart. But yet, when you learn Chassidus, you become smart and you stop thinking like childish. The famous story of the Chassid Peretz of Chernigov, Peretz Chaim, who came to the Tzemach Tzedek, and Tzemach Tzedek said to him, Peretz, and when he was 6 years old, he told him, before you eat, put your hand on your forehead. And he said to him, don't be childish. He was a child. He didn't say don't be a child. He was 6 years old. Don't be childish. Change your mindset. And before you eat, go like this and think for a moment, who am I eating before? And that even a 6-year-old can be trained to do and ultimately understand that that's the whole idea of kavanah, of before you eat, etc. Why am I saying this? The Alter Rebbe says here, a little bit in your heart is emes. So to say that I entirely am at this level for the average person, it's not that way. But to say that it's completely baloney, it's also not that way. Mipnei ava ativis. And you know why it's a little bit truthful? Because we have a natural, instinctual love, shebelev kol Yisrael, that's within every Jewish heart, lasses kol mash rotzen el yebaruchu, that whatever is Hashem's rotzen, to do God's will. The yichud zeh, and this unity of Lshem yichud kutshu bricha that we spoke about before, hu ritzaynei hu amiti, that's the true will of every single Jew. V'hainu yichud o'elyin shebatzilus hadnasa b'seidus dilatata ayde yichud ofesh alikis v'skalusa b'yin Hashem ha'malu b'shteiro mitzvahs. In other words, this yichud in Atzilus, this unity that happens in Atzilus is created because of the arousal of our godly soul below, incorporating ourselves, uniting ourselves with the infinite God through Torah and mitzvahs. As we said before, this is a true unity. We'll stop over here, and we'll continue with Lshem on Monday. So what we walk away with in this year is the importance of understanding that the Lshem yichud, this is the bottom line. Whether you're the Chabad custom, you say it one time, or others that say Lshem yichud before each mitzvah, the Lshem yichud didn't change, Moshe. So though I'm sure in your shul, Neish Kodesh, they say Lshem yichud before Sfiras Omer. It says the same Lshem yichud. It's not a different Lshem yichud. It's Lshem yichud about this particular mitzvah. And in Chabad, we say Lshem yichud before Baruch Shamar once a day. That goes for the whole day. But the Lshem yichud is the same. So what's the Lshem yichud? What is the Lshem yichud? So we learned in today's shir that Lshem yichud is to not just unite God through our Torah, our mitzvah that we're doing now, for ourselves, but for Klal Yisrael. B'shem Kol Yisrael. That's why it says L'shem Yichud Kutshu Brichu Hillel B'Shem Kol Yisrael. You weren't here, but the Alter Rebbe, like, what do you have to say B'Shem Kol Yisrael? In the name of all of Yisrael. I'm doing a mitzvah now. I'm putting on tefillin Lshem yichud. My mitzvah. But B'Shem Kol Yisrael. That's what we learned in today's shir. B'Shem Kol Yisrael, because since in source and makar, all Jews are one. My mitzvah of putting on tefillin isn't just a personal mitzvah. It's for Kol Yisrael. And you should know that this thought will bring people closer to mitzvahs. When a person realizes that what they do doesn't just impact themselves, but it impacts Kol Yisrael, a lot of people will get excited about it. Yes, Moshe.
Rabbi Dalfin, what you just said is very apropos. Because as we're talking, I just got a WhatsApp. I have a friend who's flying to Eretz Yisrael right now.
Yes.
He just wrote me right now. He's in the lounge in the airport in Istanbul. He's the only Jew around, and he wants to put on tefillin right now. And he's a little bit nervous. So I wrote him, put it on, don't be afraid. But I'm going to write him now some more.
Yeah.
He wrote me just now.
Yeah. I'm shocked, but I thought they said that, now you shouldn't really go through Istanbul. But okay, listen, he'll be protected. And from tefillin, it says, V'yoru mimeka, that the enemy will run away, and that's why the Rebbe, after the 6-day war, sent the Chabadniks out to the front to put on tefillin. The enemy should see the tefillin. They should see the Shel Rosh. V'yoru mimeka. It doesn't mean he has to go in, in middle of the... I've been to the Istanbul airport. I know you're surrounded by Muslims from all sides. The Abish will help bench him, tell him that we're davening for him. Anyway, Chevra, have a great Shabbos and an easy fast. And we should have Binyan Beis HaMikdash, so we'll rejoice together on Monday. Sei gesund. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Take care. Take care. Shabbos.